Now, see also here that God glorified, being glorified in all things through Christ. Okay, that has to do with being brought to completion, cycle after cycle, through faith and charity. Okay, this pattern expresses his virtue, whereby he receives pure praise. Okay, this is that flow of grace from God through us and back to him. Okay, there's from God through us back to him. That's that reciprocation exchange that takes place. Okay, charity, truth, charity. Charity, truth, charity, right? There's that exchange. Okay, grace and faith, grace and faith. Okay, so this cycle brings forth cleansing, healing, and increase of the substance in our hearts. Okay, and you see the same thing with the running water, right? Okay, as concerning the sacrifices. Okay, that it's through the the continual flowing of the water, okay, which remains pure. You see the same thing also with like a cistern. Okay, if you trap water, okay, it can become stagnant to the point where it's no longer valuable, okay, for drinking. Okay, whereas flowing water, okay, is good, okay, because it remains pure. Okay, it's the same thing with this flow. The flow of grace continues, okay, through faith and charity, the cycle. Okay, that's a flow which keeps faith living. Okay, we aren't to receive grace and keep it for ourselves. Okay, because then without that expression, okay, there's no life in it, right? So the life is in the expression. So faith must be active. Okay, the activity of faith must be directed by truth. So faith must be active, but within the boundaries of truth, within the framework of the covenant, right? So that's why the knowledge that we receive must be wholly ordered knowledge. Okay, and that's where truth sets order to the knowledge. And like we've talked about before, it's not just a pile of building materials. Okay, but that those building materials have to be assembled, okay, in the proper order, sequence, and everything about it in order to build a house, right? Okay, according to the specifications, for the blueprint. So you have to have more than just the building materials, don't you? Okay, there has to be order, there has to be knowledge, there has to be experience with this. Okay, so also as we receive truth from living apostles who are able to set order to this knowledge, okay, and order to our thinking, okay, in order to direct our faith into Christ, so that we're not touching everything. Okay, it's just like a little child, right? Run around, you got to run around, block all the outlets, and fix the corners of your tables and that sort of stuff. Okay, because they might just run around and run in and bump into all kinds of things and touch everything and poke everything and get themselves hurt and injured. It's the same thing with truth. Okay, truth says touch this, don't touch that. These things are sanctified by God, those things aren't. Okay, these things are effectual for faith, those things aren't. Okay, this is the definition God provided for this element. Okay, nothing else. So you need to conform your understanding of these things to God. Okay, we are coming into agreement with God through this foundation knowledge of truth. Okay, because God brought us into agreement with Him through this same knowledge. So also do those that we steward to need to come into agreement with God through this same knowledge. Okay, we're all in agreement with God. We're not asking anyone to come into agreement with us. We're simply assisting others into coming into agreement with God just as we did. Okay. So you can see here verses 10 and 11, okay, that all things that we do, okay, are with the purpose of building as we remain mindful of his plan. Okay, so we are resourcing the things of Christ to advance God's interests, not our own. Okay, we're resourcing the things of Christ to advance God's interests. Okay, and here's where we see that our faith is meeting God's expectations. Okay, and we're justified by Him, free from condemnation. Now He says, "Forever and ever, Amen." All right, that His eternal plan has to be sealed. Okay, and you can write 3C next to that, forever and ever. He's talking about that third covenant. Okay, being received back into the bosom of the Father. Now, only light can enter into light. Okay, and God is light, so the soul must be purged of darkness. Okay, through the work of regeneration, the soul must take on the substance of Christ through regeneration to be received back to God. Okay, the heart must be tested. It's through the testing of the heart that we have choices of faith. We can exercise choices of faith, or to continue to mold our confidence with things that are outside of Christ. Okay, those that choose faith, okay, are rewarded with an increase of the substance of Christ within the soul. Okay, that regeneration is taking place. Okay, this is keeping covenant with God. We exercise our faith through the priesthood. okay, through faith and charity, these cycles of growth, okay, we are experiencing the work of Christ within the soul. Okay, only through the priesthood, only through truth, only through the Spirit. These things all work together to bring about this reality. This is why so few experience this reality, because they refuse to come into covenant with God. Right? They want to be free to express their own ideas as concerning God. Okay, or in other words, to keep their own idols. They want to have their own idols and have them hidden under their bed, right? Okay, they don't like truth because truth brings restrictions to the imagination. Okay, truth demands that the principle be pried out of their fingers like prying a toy out of a little baby's hands, right? They got that good grip on it. Okay, but they need to put that down because now we need to learn how to, we need to learn how to do something new. Okay, you got to put that toy down and they don't want to let it go, right? Okay, a lot of people are like that. But those of faith, right, uh, respond to the knowledge of Christ because they recognize the voice of God confirming Christ in this knowledge. And we were just talking about this the other day. Melissa and I were sharing with somebody. Okay, and as concerning that confidence that we have and that God bearing witness, okay, to this knowledge and recognizing Christ in that. That even though at first we didn't want to believe truth, okay, because we also, it was contrary to the things that we were embracing. Okay, we could not deny Christ in this knowledge. Okay, and with faith in our hearts, we yielded to Christ. Okay, we laid down the tools. We laid down the tools of the world that we were embracing and the philosophies that we had that we were showing favor to. Okay, that we thought were of value. Okay, as we learned from Christ, okay, because Christ in this knowledge, okay, we learned from Christ that these things were of no value. We thought they were valuable to him, and he showed that he set value only in these sanctified things. Well, things we were embracing weren't sanctified by him. Okay, so we laid those things down. We picked up the things that he identified as profitable. Okay, not according to our estimation, but according to his estimation. That has to do with coming into agreement. That's conformity. Okay, and as we first conformed and continued to receive his knowledge and continue to make application with that knowledge, continue to exercise our faith with the sanctified tools of the priesthood, he continued to meet our expectations. The very first thing he shared with us is that expectation of the witness of God, that as your faith is joined to the record of Christ, God bears witness, making your faith living. Okay, from the very first time I began to make application with the knowledge of Christ, I experienced that edification, okay, that impact of grace, touching my heart with that living substance. Okay, and again, like I said, that's continued on every day since. Okay, so that expectation, truth put me in expectation of Christ. Christ has always been faithful and consistent. Okay, in confirmation of himself. The grace of God has never been absent. Okay, from these tools. Right, I've never come to the contact points of grace, okay, and found that the power was out and the breaker was off. Okay, that would be unsettling, right? You find out that, geez, I thought I was going to be able to use this outlet, and I can't. Right? Faith is not like that at all. Okay, now, so, which is why, that we can only learn to trust Christ, okay, as we touch him. In order to touch him, we have to know how to touch him. We have to know what things have been sanctified for our contact with him. Okay, but through daily contact with him, right, through sanctified contact, your trust in him increases every single day. And because there's that exchange, okay, that as you reach out to him, he is always there. Okay, now that was not true, okay, when I define reaching out to him as an emotional thing, or really trying to serve him with a servant's heart, or all the various different things I tried to make sense out of prior to coming into covenant. Okay, when I talk about reaching out to Christ now, I'm purely talking about through the priesthood. Okay, nothing outside of the priesthood. Same thing that Paul was writing about here. Same thing Peter wrote about. Same thing John wrote about. Same thing Chief Apostle Eric writes about, and Chief Teacher Maria, and all of the elders the second 8th week. Okay, continue to confirm the same doctrine, the same knowledge. Okay, that it's through the priesthood and through the covenant that we know him, not apart from that. Right, so when we talk about reaching out to him, we're not talking about all of the strange philosophies, okay, that people use. We're talking about the priesthood. We're talking about the tools of the covenant, sanctified contact. Okay, and just as it would be strange to Chief Apostle Peter to find out that somebody was thinking that charity meant something other than the expression of truth, okay, because that's what he was talking about. Okay, so also is it strange to think that following after Christ would mean anything other than daily function in the spiritual priesthood of Christ, because that's the foundation from which he was teaching. Okay, so he wasn't able to see that people would take this into many different directions. Okay, as well. I mean, the apostles did warn that that was going to happen, so it's not that he wasn't able to see it, but I'm sure he didn't think about all of the different mutations that have taken place, and all the various definitions that have taken place. Okay, but he was speaking from the foundation of truth. Those that he was sharing with were receiving that knowledge from the foundation of truth. Okay, he was sharing Christ, confirming Christ. They were receiving Christ. Okay, this is that exchange of substance, that pure charity. Okay, this is good stewardship. Okay, so as you receive, so also do you give. Right, that you will be benefited by that, and so also to those that you share with. Okay, Christ is increased through that exchange. And he goes on in verse 12 where he says, "Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you." Okay, as though some strange thing happened to you. Okay, again, not projecting the outcome. Okay, don't project for yourself that regeneration can take place apart from the testing of your heart. Okay, God is setting scenarios for your testing. Okay, this is where purging takes place. Okay, you understand that through the doctrine of Christ. Okay, truth makes known these things, right? Puts you in expectation of growth, but it also puts you in expectations of these purging cycles that take place daily, right? The cycles of your growth. Right? That we are not, don't be ignorant of these things, and don't project for yourself that you can bear forth fruit apart from these things, because this is the design of Christ. Okay, that it's through grace and suffering, through suffering and glory, okay, that Christ is formed within us. That this is how the purging is taking place. So you notice when he says beloved here in this verse 12, okay, those who are taking on this yoke of knowledge, okay, by which we labor to bring forth fruit, those are the beloved. And he's identifying his audience. Okay. He's not using the definition of anybody who comes to this from any different background. He's talking to those, okay, who understand the framework from which he's drawing. Okay, those whom he had personally stewarded this knowledge of Christ to. When he talks about the fiery trial, that's simply your next cycle of growth. Okay, our cycles of growth, as we know, are daily. Okay, we have daily cycles of growth. There's weekly cycles of growth, monthly cycles of growth. Okay, and the big one usually, there's that yearly cycle of growth. Okay, that takes place. Right, and we continue through them all the same. We overcome every cycle of growth through faith and patience and consistency, long suffering. Okay, we just continue with the priesthood. Okay, now fire, when he talks about a fiery trial, fire is used for purging defects, right, as to separate the dross from the silver. Okay, fire is also used to soften metals for forging. Okay, same thing's taking place with the work of Christ in the heart. That's why these words are being used. Okay, so we can understand this process, that we are being conformed by the right hand of God, okay, through each cycle of growth, through which we overcome by faith. Okay, as we overcome by faith, we're being conformed by the right hand of God. Right? He is personally overseeing this work within our hearts. So without faith, the soul molded with iniquity. Okay, and this is the source of the defects which the Lord is now purging, okay, from us by these fiery trials. Okay, so as we are now molding with His grace and truth, okay, that old fruit is being purged away. Okay, the things that we once were embracing are being brought to nothing. And I think I've shared that before, where I had a dream once about there was huge monuments, stone monuments that were just brought to absolute. It was brought beyond rubble. Okay, because you could no longer even tell that they had ever been there, or that there was even a pile of what had once been there. I mean, it became nothing, literally obliterated. Okay, every trace of it being removed, which is incredible. Okay, which is the Lord confirming His work within the soul. Okay, again, not confirming the vessel, but confirming Christ in the soul, Christ working within the soul.